Anywho, I want to welcome you guys. Thank you so much for being here today, and I am excited to get to share something different from my usual. I'm going to be talking about digitizing a pen and pencil line drawing so that you can use it in your World Anvil settings and have some of your own art. So yay, I'm glad you can hear now. So, no, I knew I wasn't on mute, so. Oh, but anyway, so I am, like I said, I was really excited about doing this. I spent like all day yesterday preparing the tutorial so that you guys could kind of see what I'm up to on besides Fiber Arts, and like I said, hopefully help you guys to be able to use your own art in your worlds. So if you guys are doing Inktober or another version of art practice this month, why not try to focus on your world or worlds, one of your worlds. Oh, and while I'm at it, I am going to share the stream notes for today. Well, that's good to know that maybe I had to pause and unpause, because sometimes people can't hear me and I can't help them, and I know I've got my mic on, so that's good to know. So anyway, if you're doing your own art for Inktober, it doesn't hurt to try to focus on your world, and if you create some great art, you can use it there. So if you like to draw on paper like I do, I bought a special notebook this October. I didn't get to start Inktober in the notebook, but I've had a lot of fun just trying to draw and get some practice, because I was very out of practice drawing. So whenever I take a photo of my art, so if I'm wanting to take a picture of this art, and I don't really like using my scanner, I'll generally use my phone for a photo. It turns out yellowish and not nice, and there's usually smudges and stuff because or there's areas like the smoke on here that you can see that don't show up as well. So there's ways that we can deal with those kinds of things. The techniques I'm going to use are not just for Affinity Photo, okay? I'm going to be using Affinity Photo, but I've tried to keep the techniques pretty general so that you can use them in GIMP or Photoshop or whatever you happen to be using. So let's get into this. What you're going to need is you're going to need a drawing, and for today's photo, the Baku, he's a Japanese dream eater. I just used a mechanical pencil. Where's my happy little eraser? Just a polymer eraser, and my new favorite pen. Put this aside here. It is the Zebra brush pen, and I don't know if you can back it up a little bit. It's got a brush nib, but it's a harder brush nib so that you have more control. I ordered a sampler, and this was my favorite of all of them, and I chose a waterproof one, and I'll show you why. I was working on a picture of Cho. I don't know if you can see on there, but I had totally smudged up her name and got it over here too, and it really frustrated me. So I had ordered some waterproof pens after that issue. So I tried all of them out, and this Zebra one is my favorite, and it's in the show notes. I put a link to it in case you guys decide you want it. But some other things that come in handy are like one of the tube type erasers, and an opaque white ink, the Uniball Signal, which I also have a link to in the show notes. is one of my favorites. It's the most opaque. A lot of people like the Jelly Roll white, but I find this one to be actually even superior. So anyway, art supplies, there you go. When I digitize art, if I don't use a scanner, I do use my phone, and we'll talk today about how to do that best. And again, I said I use Affinity Photo and Designer. I have links to that in case you're interested, but this can be done in any modern graphics program. So I'm going to give you guys some tips for doing your initial drawing. I'm not going to do the drawing today because it takes me way longer than I would have had for the tutorial. When you're doing your drawings, you're going to want to draw lightly, and I don't know if you can see it on here. Oops, it's hard to tell which direction to go. But on this photo, around the there it is, the sword, there was a whole bunch of eraser lines. This was my very first picture in the notebook, and I was testing it out, and I drew a little bit too dark and I had a hard time erasing them. So draw lightly, okay? When you get your pencil image done, take a picture of it before you ink. That way, if you goof it up really badly or smear the heck out of it or drop some water on it or who knows what, then you have a backup of it, okay? It really helps to vary your lines for visual interest. So this guy, you can see there's a lot of different line widths, and I did even better with the Baku because I had more control with the particular pen I used. So it just adds interest, and then if you pick lines like the outline of his head to make thicker, it kind of emphasizes and shows you visually where to look as kind of a cue. Think almost like coloring books, how they have the very outline really, really dark. So that is that. Do your very, very best to erase well after you ink, because if you leave any little bits, you're going to have to deal with that later in the digitizing process, and it's just easier to erase it. It's faster. So, okay, I showed you those. Oh, and the one other thing I forgot to mention, you want to make sure you have good contrast when you're going to do the techniques I do. I'm showing you today because on here you can kind of see the smoke that was coming from the sword on this, and I did that in silver. Don't use silver unless it's for a finished piece. You're not going to digitize with this particular set of techniques, okay? Because I had a lot of cleanup to do because I couldn't make it as contrasty, and then I had to go manually do more work. So just so you know, silver was fun, but I'm not doing it again for the particular style that I'm using. Next, let's talk about taking the photo. So I did use a scanner for one of the pieces that I did, but I didn't want to get into all the techniques. Pretty much everybody nowadays has a camera phone or has access to somebody who has one. Now, I don't know if you can see, as I turn this, there's different lighting on it in the room. And so when you set up your picture for your photo, you're not going to want it where part of it's in shadow and part of it's not. So when you put your phone to take a picture, make sure it's not going to be, or your hand also is not going to be also shadowing any of it, because that adds to the difficulties of digitizing your work. Also make sure that your camera lens is clean. If you're like me, my phone goes with me everywhere. It gets shoved in my pocket. I might be eating lunch while I'm scanning the internet, and so make sure your lens is clean. It will make a better photo. Then Also, make sure that you take your time when you're doing this. You don't want to just rush and take the photo because you didn't rush to make your art, okay? Or if you did, it's still worth taking your time. So, hi Rin, thank you for the. It's good to. I am trying to let it. Oh, we're getting a raid. Hi, thank you. Okay. So getting back to that, I was talking about making sure that you have clean, clear work and erasing well. And I was also getting into talking about taking your photos. So I don't always use a scanner. A lot of times I'll use my phone. And when you set up your notebook, I don't ever just lay it flat, because when I put my phone above it to take a picture, I'm gonna get a shadow on it. I don't know if you can see. Let's see. There we go. You can see a shadow there. So I usually kind of put it at an angle where there isn't much shadow on the page, okay? And it's fairly even. I often also don't take it right in the center of the photo. I'll kind of move it over to the side so that any shadow will be over to the side, and any shadows from my hands will also be over to the side, so that I get as clean a picture as I can. Also, make sure to learn how to use your camera on here. Let's see if I can. Oops, come on. So, oh, you don't need to. Let's see if I can get this to. All right. So it's showing me, if I click on it, usually it will show a box. It was hard to see. There is a box on there. If I click on my phone, it shows a box as to where it's trying to focus. So make sure that you have the image in focus so you can get the cleanest, crispest shot. And make sure to take your time. Make sure that when you're taking your picture, that it's, let's see if I can get this turned around here, that it's level, it's not wonky, and it's not perspective-wise wonky. Okay, you want it as flat in the picture as possible, and to match up with the edges. And you want to get in as close as you can too, okay? And also take several pictures, because invariably one will be just a little bit better than the rest, and then that's the one that you'll want to use for digitizing. So let's get into the digitizing part, and I'll catch up with chat here for just a second, then we'll get into the digitizing. So yeah, there was two of me on the screen. So double foxes. So thank you, Moonflower, for contributing to my art stream. Or long crafting stream. I appreciate it. It was lovely to be able to share that time with you guys, and it will be really fun to have an extended stream. I usually only have an hour for my streams, because that's what me as an introvert is, what I can handle. But the crafting streams, it should be much easier, and should be a lot of fun to spend several hours with you guys during an afternoon or a morning, whatever we pick for that. So, and when we hit 100,000 points, I will be doing some sort of a celebration. I just haven't decided on what. Oh, and more. Thank you, Necromancer Tristan, RPG Bob. You guys are so sweet. So, but I think we're just about there. And thank you, Sable Aradia. So I think we'll get to celebrate the 100,000 points mark, and I'm not sure what we'll do yet. So I'll let you know. Let's get into the art side of this. Okay, so I think you guys can see this now. Thank you, Basic Dragon. Thank you, Aaron. So you guys are awesome. And thank you, Danny, for the cheer. Oh, I just hit it. Yay! You guys are awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of my tea and discombobulate my poor brain, because it's been going all over the place today. 102,000. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, guys. I did not know what goal to pick, so I picked a pretty high one, and you guys are just wonderful to be able to contribute and support me that way. I really appreciate it. Okay, on to cleaning up our images. So Again, making sure that you import your best picture. You can see it was a little wonky in your camera. The lens is never going to be perfectly perpendicular, okay? It's never going to be like right angles. But try to get it as close as you can in there. So thank you for the follow, Null Carl. Null Car. There we go. I appreciate it. So get your picture into there as best you can, and if not, you can adjust the angle of it in your graphics program. Thank you also for the follow, Ariel Perk. That's a cute name too. So this is how I process my images. There's variants, and everybody's going to have a little bit different style. This is just one way to do it. Feel free to add and try to tinker with stuff and see what works best for you. So, okay. So what I first do is I go in and I make my images black and white. I probably could take a black and white photo in here, but this is just, I usually forget, so I go in and I do an adjustment layer. Oh, you can't see. When I click down here is the adjustment layers, and I pick black and white from the menu. There it is. I'm sorry you can't see that part. I was really having troubles getting Affinity to play with Streamlabs so I could at least see my image. So now it's a pretty decent black and white. We've still got a little bit more shadow over here, but it's not bad. We'll get there. Then I do a real quick gray curves adjustment. You can also use levels, but I have better luck with curves. And you can see here, I'll probably want to make, oh, you can't see there. There's a histogram here, and here's where all the blacks are, and over here is where all the whites are. Here, I'll take a picture of it and show you guys. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but I have the histogram here. So here's, whoops, here's the whites and the blacks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a control point and move that all the way to the top for the whites, and then I'm going to add another control point and move it all the way to the bottom for the blacks. And you guys can see it's really starting to pop, and I will take another picture and show you guys the histogram there, what I did. So you can see that. So there's a control point at that and at the bottom. Whoop, there we go. So it got pretty good. So just gonna see, I think there's a little bit of dark area over here, so I'm gonna move that white just a little bit farther over. Okay, and now I'm also gonna crop it. I don't see the black edges. So now I've got it pretty good. It's still kind of like there might be some darks down here. So I'm going to pull open my color tool, and you guys can't see it, I'm sorry. But as I pull the color tool over, it will show me what color it is, and blacks are going to be 000 in red, green, blue, and whites are going to be 255, 255, 255. And this corner that I was thinking might be a little bit not white is white, so we're good that way. And my blacks are nice and black. So that's the easy peasy non-manual part. So I'm gonna group those together. That's just kind of how Affinity works best for me. And I'm gonna see if there's, actually I got some really good darks with this. If I don't get good darks, what I'll do is I'll duplicate the layer and set that to multiply, and it usually will make it just a little bit darker. In fact, I wanna leave that. Makes me do a little bit more cleanup, but I like the blacks better then. So that's for the easy part. I'm gonna catch up with chat and then we'll go into the manual cleanup, okay? So, all right. ECC books. You know, you don't have to worry about distracting me. I just have to have the mental, okay, I'm going to take a pause and then catch up with chat. So that's what I made myself do. So, but it's very sweet of you. So thank you, secondhand. You're always so sweet. So it's nice that you guys are enjoying seeing the stream, and I hope this is helpful for you guys and your art. I want to see people using more of their art because we're doing our writing art on World Anvil, but it's nice to see as much of that, of the flavor and people's spirit into the World Anvil worlds. So thank you so much for the follow, ECC Books. Nalkar says the picture looks to be a mixture of Hindu and Chinese mythology creatures. He might be in other Asian mythologies, but he's a Baku from the Japanese mythology, and I took pictures of him from a Japanese netsuke, a little carved figure, and a couple other statues. So I took different aspects, so I wasn't just copying somebody's work. I made him my own by changing several aspects and making it more unique. So ECC Book says, I'm a lapsed illustrator myself, so this is super interesting. Doing most of my work in 3D art programs now, but would like to get back into sketching by hand. And I used to use Photoshop, and I never used Illustrator actually. I just used mainly Photoshop, but I love Affinity, and I hated paying for Adobe's subscription. And I tried to get out of their subscription, and they were not nice. They wouldn't just let me out of it. I had to pay for the rest of the year, and I was like, ugh. So I will never, ever go back to them. I don't like their subscription plans unless they've changed. But Affinity is much more affordable, and they have multiple programs that you can handle pixel art. Like in Photo here, you can do vector art in the design program, and you can do like PDFs and stuff in their publisher. So I have never will need to go back to Adobe products. So anyway, that's me, my preference, but everybody has their preferences, so. Oh wow, hi! More people. Thanks, Hefe, for the raid. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Secondhand says, all the art's format matters not. I'd love to see someone in WA dance. We've had cooking and song. That would be incredibly cool. I have known some wonderfully talented dancers. Everything from belly dance to traditional dances to tap dance and ballet. So yes, that would be really, really cool. So hello everybody, welcome. So okay, and more talk about Adobe. I'm not going to go into all of that. So all right, so let's get into the manual cleanup of this. This one turned out really easy, so you guys will think this is really easy all the time. It's not. When I had to do the manual cleanup for this one, it was a pain in the butt. So just so you know that it's not always this easy. This one just happened. I lucked out for the picture I drew yesterday for Inktober. So what I do is I will always open a new layer to do my adjustments on. I don't want to change the original art layers. And then I zoom in and kind of start from the top, see where I need to make any changes. So like I have a bit over here that overlaps. I'll just get a brush and either have black or white and adjust my brush. Oh, you guys can see the brush size. Okay, good. And then I zoom in really good to, oh, that flow isn't good. I want a different brush. To make my fixes. And I just switch between the black and the white. If there's anything that really sticks out. This is a hand-drawn image. There are going to be bumps and things, but if I forgot to erase pencil like I did here, or anything, I just go in and manually clean it up. And this is the part that takes the most time. Oh, I have, the bot is going. Oh, funny, I didn't have the bot on. It must be from the cloud bot. Oh, okay. Well, that's fun. Today has just been full of surprises, because my first surprise was that Streamlabs would not work right away with Affinity Photo. By the way, for the new people, if you guys have troubles getting a program to work with Streamlabs, here's the document that helped me figure that out today. Oops. Oh, and if you, for shortcuts, if you hit spacebar, they don't have to swap tools to hop around. I think that's pretty universal in a lot of the programs. Make sure I don't have any. A lot of times my corners are not quite white. Oops. Oh, no, 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 don't you do that. Go back in there. All right. Get back down. I don't think I have to be quite in. All right. And by the way, if you guys haven't heard of tabletop audio, that's what we're listening to today. I became a patron just because somebody had pointed me in his direction, and I absolutely love the soundscapes on here. He doesn't mind if you use his music in streams, but he says that once you feel you're established, to please donate so that he gets compensation. And then I chose to become a patron right away. It's very reasonable. He offers a simple product. It's just use the use the stuff that's available. And he has a few Patreon posts too. So there's links in the credits. A lot of times I'll use a stylus. I'm using my mouse today because the monitor I'm on is not touchscreen. So a little slower that way. It's harder to get accurate, but it's doable. You don't have to have a stylus. Yeah, tabletop audio really is amazing, Moonflower. I've been really grateful because I don't always want words in my music when I'm trying to concentrate, unless it's a song that really fits with the mood that I'm writing in. So I've been really grateful, and I did receive I wrote back to him in the Patreon messages once I became a patron, and he was very kind and responded back really fast, but with permission. So I have written permission to be able to stream his stuff, and hopefully we'll get him a little more attention and maybe a few more patrons. Moonflower says I have to have instrumental when writing. A lot of times I do, but if I'm writing like a fight scene, it's hard to find the right instrumental music for that. Now maybe I haven't got to listen to all of Tabletop Audio's stuff. So thank you for the follow. Hey, it's AP. I really appreciate it. I'm just cleaning up my stuff. When we get closer to the end of this stream, I will call it good whether or not it's done and officially finish it tomorrow if it doesn't get done. But I'll finish showing you guys what all I do here. We're almost done with the tutorial I had anyway, so. Yeah, and it you know, if you can't afford to be a patron yet, I should see if I can find the email for you guys, what he said to me. He was so incredibly cool. Let's see if I can find it here quick. Oops. Must not have been in that email. I've got a work email and a personal email, so we'll see if it's in a personal email. Streamlabs slows my poor little laptop down a lot, so everything is slow. So this is what he said, and this is to me, you want to make sure that you can get the same permission. But he said, the licensing fees for whatever you feel like when you're making an actual profit, not just starting out. The fee is also set by you. Patreon support counts too, and should only ever be a non-onerous amount. So he's super cool about it, and he's been supporting the gaming and writing community, so yeah. All right, we are at about 20 minutes too. I'm going to show you guys what I do for the rest of it. You've seen my cleanup. The cleanup is the part that takes me the absolute longest, the manual cleanup. But I want to make it really nice so that if I offer my art for a high resolution download, that people are happy to have it. So once I feel that I've touched up all of the parts of the image, I will do a real quick manual check, start in one corner and just kind of scroll through, give it one last look over and make sure that I've gotten all of it. And obviously I haven't, but this is just kind of the process that I use. So yeah, I can see several places like right there and that need to be done. So assuming that this was all perfect and ready to go, then if there was a part, like sometimes an edge or a corner is darker than another, you can select that area and do curves on that to make it cleaner. Yeah. So then once your image is ready, go ahead and in depending on your program, that might be save as or it might be export. In Affinity, it's going to be export. Oh, and you can't see the screen. Okay, I will take another picture. You guys can see. Let's see. All right. So there's my, there we go. My export settings screen. On the export settings screen, you can set the size, the resample, algorithm, and the quality. So the size, if it's going to be a high resolution image that I'm going to put up in my shop, I make that as big as I can so that people can resize it as they like. For resampling, there's several different choices. I always choose the Lancos 3, or maybe that's not quite how you pronounce it, but that's the best I can do with my American English. I always choose one of the Lancos 3, but if you don't have that in your particular program, bicubic is usually pretty good. And there's, in my stream notes, which I will pull up for you guys again, I have a link to what each of the options are going to be, you know, whether it's nearest neighbor, bilinear, or what. I always choose Lancos 3 because it's the newest and one of the best. You get really crisp output with it. So, and then I always give it the highest quality I can. Now sometimes for like if you're doing images for your Patreon header or something, there's a size limit and then you can lower the quality a little bit, but I would never lower it a lot because like in a JPEG you're going to get some artifacting. It's going to be little squares and pixely. So I never lower that. I try to keep it at least in the 90s, bare minimum. I often, for my images, will use JPEG, but if I'm doing anything transparent, obviously I'm going to use PNG. JPEGs take up less space, they're more compressed, but PNGs allow for the transparency. So, also make sure you name your files logically, because if you just name it what it was in the camera when it outputted the photo, you aren't going to be able to find it again. So any of my Inktober drawings have that as the first word. And if you're going to upload them for sale or for on any place that's online, make sure your name is in there. And if you can, change the metadata in there so that people can contact you for permission to use it, if in case they would. I know a lot of people don't, but this is one of the things that you can do to help yourself. For my World Anvil images, I usually make them a maximum of 1920 pixels wide for 1080p resolution, and go for less than 1 megabyte overall size, so that when it loads on the page, that it doesn't take forever to load. I know, like with some of the maps, you can have huge maps, but for anything you're going to do on an article, don't make it huge. Even if it's the header image, don't make it huge. Just let it loads, and people don't have to wait, especially if they're on, you know, lower internet settings. It's going to take a long time for them. So that is the export of what I have. I had a couple more general art tips. So whenever I get a new notebook, I'll put this back to the full webcam so you can see this. I make a sampler, and so I did all my drawing pencils here. I did all of the pens I like to use, and then I saw how waterproof they were, so some of them you can see smudged badly. Now, if that's an effect you want, that's great. But if it's not, and you happen to have, you know, just washed your hands and your hands weren't quite dry, you might have some issues. So just be aware of that so that you can not have smudges if you don't want them. But yeah, I religiously do this. Of course, I was the kid who, when I had a box of color crayons, I would spend as much time as I could organizing them in rainbows because it made me happy. This makes me equally happy. So I hope that you don't find making a sampler like this hard. I really enjoy them. I love testing out and what works. I'm going to do also another one in this book for my watercolors later so that I can see how it works. One real quick tip that I had to learn for this one, because this is watercolor pencils, it was all crinkly and bumpily. I wet down the back of the page and I put like a plastic bag between each page here, and closed it, put something really, really heavy on it, and it flattened it out a lot. It wasn't totally flat, but it's a lot better. So those are my tips. We are at about 10 more minutes in till we hit ferret tags. So I will continue editing my piece because I would like to be able to put it up in my shop and on my Inktober page. Oh, if you guys haven't seen my shop, there is no pressure to buy, I promise. No. But part of why I want to show you this is if you are a creator and you're on Ko-Fi, they just opened up the option to have a shop for everybody. And I thought that was really cool. I will show you kind of what it looks like if you're interested. And again, this is not to push you to buy my stuff. This is so not what that is. I just want you guys to be able to see. Let's see, Chrome plus webcam. Okay, so here's what my shop looks like. They allow you to add tags, so anything, as I add more art, not all of my stuff will be from my Liminal Chronicles series. You can add tags and just select, you know, say I wanted just to show the Sashiko type images or just to show the images that work with myths. I really like that because it kind of makes categories for you. But they allow you to set your own price. The only fee that is charged is the PayPal or Stripe fee. So they don't charge you to use their shop, which I thought was really cool. If you're gold, they don't charge you to use your shop. I think if you're not a gold member, they charge a little bit, but it seemed as reasonable as like Etsy. So that is that. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to editing my photo. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that I really like the shop thing. I haven't sold anything in there yet, but that's okay. I wanted them available so that if people wanted them, my art for personal use, that they could find them. Okay, I'm going to catch up in chat too while we're at it. Moonflower says storm is about here. Oh, well, I'm sorry there's a storm coming in, but stay safe. Okay, Moonflower? Well, thank you, Danny. I'm glad that you think they're good tips. I've done drawing for a long time. Again, I'm not a pro, but I love trying it. So I hope that the experiences that I have are helpful to people. Easy ECC book says, beyond Inktober or similar as the first part, what's the rest of your naming conventions for files? Oh, you know, I don't have it all memorized. Let me look them up for you really quick. So, for my Inktober files, I put like Inktober dash, and then kind of whatever the subject was, and I was using the subject of the prompt for the day, so it might be blade or armor or whatever, and then I put the date, so because I can usually kind of remember about what year I did something, and of course my name in there. But it depends on what you're doing. So if you're doing something for a particular world, you might put that particular world's name in there, or if you're doing cover art for somebody, you make sure to put their name in there so that you can find it again. So Basic Dragon says you should do that for all different paper that you use as well, because different paper reacts different. Yes, that is a very, very good point. Thank you for sharing that. Oops. So did you guys have any other thoughts or questions or anything you wanted to share? Are anybody besides me doing Inktober this year? ECC Book says, thanks, I am so organized in so many other aspects of my life, business, but file names just always trip me up. It can be hard. My file names end up being really long because I've started just adding anything I might think I need to think about later in there. So I don't know if it's always the best naming schemes, but that seems to help me. So I'm used to using my pens, but I wanted you guys to be able to see it, and I didn't want to use the tiny screen. So. Basic Dragon says, I'm not doing it this year because I'm busy prepping for Nano. This time I'm taking it more seriously and I'm hoping to publish a novel I'll be writing during Nano. That is awesome. I wish you the best of luck. So I'm going to be working on my second novel while I save up to have my first one professionally edited. So. Until my hand's getting tired up and making more goofs, but that's okay. Almost done. So part of the reason I chose to start doing Inktober was I knew I've been writing on my book, for most of almost 2 years now. In December 1st, it will be 2 years. And I needed to do something different. I hadn't done much art or crafts since then, and that wasn't right. So this was my break before we hit Nano. Okay, I'm gonna fix this little part. And then I will go get the ferret.